Ladies and gentlemen,
welcome to the show. It's Movie Wire time. Oh, the Movie Wire. Bring the firing squad. Bill, Justin. Give the finger or laugh or smile. It's time to find out. No more waiting. So here we go. The Sultan of Cinema. The gumshoe of review. Here is Justin Henson. Let's start the show. Let's go.
welcome to the Movie Wire.
And welcome to this week's edition of the Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the show. We've got a big show this week with 3 new movies to review, with all 3 playing in theaters right now. This week on the show, even when the world fell apart, they still had each other in Regretting You. Forgotten but not gone, Ethan Hawke stars of Lorenz Hart in Blue Moon. And finally, not everything is supposed to make you comfortable. Julia Roberts stars in After the Hunt. We've got a lot to cover this week, so let's jump right in. Ready for my verdict? Let's get into it.
Out of the windows, a roar and a burst of flame. The Movie Wire podcast. You need people like me.
The Wire.
And here we go.
I'm only pretty sure.
A strained relationship between young mother Morgan Grant and her teenage daughter Clara, made worse by Morgan's husband's Chris' tragic death, forcing them to navigate life's challenges together in Regretting You.
Get out of this.
Don't turn around, Clara.
What are you doing?
Come here a sec.
I'm already running late.
Please.
Where is Clara?
Hey, Aunt Jenny.
Hey, Claire Bear.
Guess who just...
Spent the last half hour with the coolest guy in school.
Oh my god.
Don't tell my mom about this.
You know she gets.
Yeah, no, of course I won't.
Sometimes it scares me how good of a liar you are. Life can have a funny way of surprising you. My mom got pregnant with me when she was 18. She and my dad were high school sweethearts. My Aunt Jenny also ended up with her high school boyfriend, Jonah. I thought we would be one big happy family forever. But the universe had other plans.
I'm very sorry. Your husband and sister were in a car accident. We did everything we could.
Don't you want to know why they were together?
Were they having
Don't say it.
I mean, what else could it be?
No! I just lost my dad and my aunt. I just want to leave.
It's been a long year.
Then let's leave.
And we couldn't know that the sun was collapsing.
It feels like there's this wall between her and me.
You remember that age? Everything felt so complicated.
Claire Grant,
That can't be good.
get in the car. 1 second.
I just don't want to forget them. My mom's trying to make it like my dad never even existed.
Tell her the truth.
It would absolutely destroy her. Smiling feels wrong right now. Like it's too soon to be happy.
That's not how I thought our first kiss would be like.
How did you think it would be?
Keep my hands in yours.
I'm not gonna let their betrayal dictate the rest of my life.
You keep using me to piss your mom off, and I'm done with it.
What aren't you telling me?
There's a lot I wish I'd done differently. But I'll never spend 1 second regretting you. You deserve to be happy. No regrets, right?
Everywhere, everything.
Now, this is a movie that is gonna separate. We have a handful of films arrive that spark heated conversations, dividing audiences and critics alike. In 2025, one such movie is Regretting You. But I'm exaggerating. There won't be any big debate on Regretting You. This is a movie destined for a split opinion from critics and audiences, because it's one of those forced emotion movies that sole intent is to trigger a cry, with it fully disguised as a drama that attempts to unravel the complex web of family, forgiveness, and personal growth. Adapted from the novel of the same name by Colleen Hoover, our writer-screenwriter here, Susan McMartin, promises emotional intensity, but as with many emotionally charged themed adaptations, this is subject to scrutiny about its execution. And those opinions would be right, because this is a mess of a movie. But here we talk about intent of what the film seeks out to do. And in all its glorious absolute cheesiness and forced emotion, it does the job it sought out to do. Just with so many flaws, it doesn't generate as many tears as it should. Regretting You centers on Morgan, played by Allison Williams, a mother grappling with the aftermath of a tragedy of a car accident that ends her husband's life, along with her daughter that shakes her family and even more so her as she unravels with the hard truth that her husband isn't what he seemed to be. And here we go. Chris, played by Scott Eastwood, was having an affair with Morgan's friend Jenny Davison, played by Willa Fitzgerald. And Jenny was married to Morgan's best childhood friend, Jonah, played by Dave Franco. But shh, Morgan and Jonah have always liked each other, and Jonah has a baby with Jenny. But I will let that reveal alone for now. All in the while was struggling with her father's death. Morgan's teenage daughter, Clara, played by McKenna Grace, is dealing with love in her teenage world by having an on and off relationship with the most popular boy in school. Miller, played by Mason Thames, who has a girlfriend but ends it at the most convenient times due to what the plot needs. You know, open and honest, I am a sucker for these kinds of movies where it plays like a soap opera, but an elevated piece of emotion where when we should be getting the... But instead we are stuck with meh dialogue with no background support. I would have preferred the music support versus just bad editing that I will get into in just a second. But instead of the overly forced cheesiness of what the movie should have been, but instead we get Dad's dead. Insert unrealistic dialogue and maybe some situations that may feel realistic on dealing with death, but the dialogue doesn't. The narrative weaves between their perspectives, exploring themes of betrayal, reconciliation, and the enduring bond between parent and child. But the dialogue is so damn cheesy, and the editing is so damn lazy. And the pacing between situational handling is so fast-paced that our director, Josh Boone, wants to take us on this high-speed attempt at an emotional situational slideshow. But at the same time, the plot is undeniably engaging. The story arcs are crafted to keep viewers invested with enough twists to avoid predictability. The screenplay honors the source material's emotional beats, giving fans of the book something to appreciate. And again, here's where I'm honest. I am a sucker for the forced manipulative, forced emotion films. To the point there are some over-the-top cheesy short soap opera type films online that are so overblown and everything, it's hard to resist me not watching. I know they're not good in anything across the board, but I keep watching. Maybe this is why soap operas of the 80s and 90s were so good to so many people. There's an audience for this type of content, and this is where the intent becomes clear, and this is where we have to keep intent of the filmmaking process in mind. Does it target a specific audience? Will it entertain that specific audience? These are things that I need to take into consideration, especially with me being a sucker for this kind of film. But, however, the film sometimes suffers from melodramatic moments and cliched dialogue that it tries too hard to be serious and comes across as a failed attempt when it should have been all in on the cheesiness, occasionally reducing nuanced conflicts to soap opera theatrics that don't go all in on these cliches, that entice the audience in mushy love topics but doesn't go far enough. And when it comes to her talent executing the intent, the casting of Regretting You is one of the strongest assets, but again, given the dialogue, they do their best. Allison Williamson as Morgan brings the most realistic, emotional, grounded performance here, capturing pain and resilience of a mother in crisis. Her performance anchors the film, elevating scenes that might otherwise come across overthought or overperformed. But again, we get into the problem that the dialogue doesn't support the intent. When it comes to Dave Franco's character, we don't get what we need from him in dialogue or performance, and that is my biggest complaint I have from performances, is that he is the only one that doesn't turn the dialogue into at least something. And Regretting You should be what Franco should be saying if he spent any money in acting lessons. The only thing he adds to the table is an innocent on-screen likability, but by the time the climax rolls, the information we are given, we are wondering if we should like this character at all, even when we should be cheering for his happiness. We have a character that originally abandoned his family and begs for forgiveness in a very vague and limited scene. Then we get another scene where he mimics the same thing, again without giving too much away. Our director Josh Boone from The Fault in Our Stars from 2014 and the production Nightmare of the New Mutants from 2020 clearly has a vision for creating intentional emotional response from the audience, with intimate close-ups and lingering shots capturing the tension and heartbreak at the heart of the story. But this is where we are taken away from the intent. This is where we are distracted from the emotional response. This is the absolute worst editing of the year by Mark Clark and Rob Sullivan. This also shows Boone's weakness at attention to detail. There are scenes, multiple scenes, of flaws with the editing, including one where we have Clara go into a movie being handed popcorn and she doesn't take the popcorn and just walks away. But in the movie, she is eating popcorn. That's just one of the more obvious ones. That's just so up front and center and prominent that it's hard to ignore. Believe me, there are a lot more. But this is just not an issue with the editors, but Boone's attention to detail. A film like Regretting You lives and dies by its dialogue and performances. At its best, the screenplay captures the cheesiness of conflict, with exchanges that feel forced and, at the same time, emotional and empathy. And we get all that in movies like this, and we talk about the intent. Is this movie leans on a lot of empathy, a lot of feelings of past loves, current loves, breakup, heartbreak. All these types of movies lean on this to get that forced emotion from the audience. And this is where Regretting You does it well, is tug at the heartstrings of empathy. The movie explores grief, forgiveness, and the complexities of a mother-daughter relationship with soap opera sensitivity. Audiences and viewers who enjoy character-driven stories will find plenty not to relate to, but they will like the situational aspects to engage in. Moments of stimulation of emotion that will force a tear. But however, the emotional intensity sometimes veers into melodrama, with the film relying on tearful confrontations and dramatic revelations. While this may resonate with some viewers, others might find it eye-rolling and manipulative. I did. I liked it. And I did. I like those. Again, there's an audience for this type of content. This is where critics will have their heyday. Well, they'll look at it at face value, while others will say, this movie will make me feel good, this movie will give me a happy cry, this movie will entertain me because this is what I bought a ticket for. Look, Regretting You is a film that offers both rewards and frustrations. The intent, again, is clear. The filmmaking is horrible and sloppy, it's cheesy as hell. But this is a film that knows what it is. And I would be lying if I said I wouldn't put this on during the time of emotional hardship or a rainy day. Because you know what? I will. Again, I'm a sucker for emotional forced films, but this one had so many filmmaking flaws it took me out of its intent. For example, we have all seen those cliche scenes where we have the main character running through the airport hoping to save the love of their life and rekindle, if you will. Here we have a character run through an AMC theater only to have her love doing nothing with a sucker in his mouth as they rekindle their status. I feel like this should have been the new AMC pre-show commercial instead of that fucking Nicole Kidman talking about movies. Maybe Nicole Kidman should do an after midnight sex ad about movies. I don't know. But anyway, this is a great product placement for AMC, but it's just a shame that the love of her life is just sitting there with his hands in his pocket doing absolutely no work, just sucking on a sucker. It's ridiculous. At least have him sweeping the floor or something. It doesn't matter. Nitpicking. Regretting You, I don't regret seeing, even with its absolute flaws. It's a prime example of horrible filmmaking. But at the end of the day, it's about the intent to appease viewers of its subject and its emotional response. Does it do the job? It does, and at times laughable. But it still does the job. There is some emotion on the relatability level on thought and real life. But good God, this needed a better editor, writer, and director. On the surface, with its intent, those that like these types of movies will enjoy it. But it force feeds us to create a better movie in our heads, but fans of soap operas will love this movie. I'm giving Regretting You 2 stars.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Now Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure you check out my reviews for movies that just became available to rent, buy, or stream now.
Now available on video cassette.
The task is simple. Walk or die in the Stephen King adaptation of The Long Walk. That was pretty thrilling for a movie about walking. All's fair when love is war in The Roses, which call me a romantic, but nothing makes me appreciate relationships more than watching other relationships fight, receiving 3.5 stars. Who can you trust when everyone is a stranger? You know, my parents told me never to talk to strangers, but they should have fucking told me not to watch strangers to prepare me for this damn movie that received half a star. It was supposed to be fun, but then 2 pregnant women later in the threesome. And surprise, it's getting threesome stars. I mean 3 stars. Friday is about to get freaky. Again, in Freakier Friday. The threesome was freakier. Freakier Friday received 1.5 stars. The case that ended it all in The Conjuring Last Rites, which this is the Avengers Endgame for Conjuring fans that satisfies, receiving 3 stars. Greatness demands sacrifice in Him, in which that must mean everybody that went to go see him vomits greatness for sacrificing their time for one of the worst movies of the year, receiving half a star. Prepare for launch and welcome to the family in the Fantastic Four, that even with flaws was a visual spectacle that didn't just focus on our characters looking cool, but the movie in its entirety, receiving 3 stars. No colors are identified, no conversations are recorded, no phone records are kept. Now speak clearly, and when you are finished, say, go ahead. In Relay, that in my review I relayed 2 stars. Go ahead. Welcome to the New West in Americana, that received 2 stars. 3 stars for Sydney Sweeney's Jeans. Last night at 2:17 a.m., every child star from Mrs. Gandy's class woke up, got out of bed, went downstairs, opened the front door, walked into the dark, and never came back. In one of the best horror movies of the year, in Weapons, that received 3.5 stars. The Truth is Messy Business and Ethan Cohen's Honey Don't, that had a great premise and an idea of tone, but made me say by the end, Ethan Cohen, please honey don't, receiving 2.5 stars. Justice Makes It Wet, in the remake of the Leslie Nielsen classic, The Naked Gun, which rapid fires gags with only a 50% success, receiving 2.5 stars. Hutch is back and nobody ruins his vacation in Nobody 2, which is an unnecessary sequel, but still a lot of fun, seeing 2 unexpected action stars like Christopher Lloyd, fire a machine gun, and Bob Odenkirk kick some ass, receiving 3 stars. Karma is a killer, and I know what you did last summer. Overacted, recycle, and brings nothing new to the table except 1.5 stars. Love is hard and breakups are harder, especially when an unnatural force has a plan to keep them together, in Together, which will make your date stop holding your hand in the movie, but worth it, receiving 3 stars. Brad Pitt goes vroom vroom in F1 the movie. That was an adrenaline run, especially given the runtime, and it's a feast for the senses, receiving 3.5 stars. Double the bad and double the fun. I don't know about that one. In The Bad Guys 2, which was just too much, receiving 2.5 stars. The Universe Called, the wrong number, in Disney Pixar's Elio, which is a much better animated movie than The Bad Guys 2, receiving 3.5 stars. And another movie that's still not as good as Elio, Smurf It Up and Get the Search Party Started, in Smurfs, which Smurfin' sucked, receiving 2 stars. And finally, every choice, every mission has led to this, in Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning, which was a clever way to close out the series, but will end with the same feeling as the rest of just blending together, but still a fun in the moment ride, receiving 3 stars. Make sure you check out those reviews of my previous episode, and while you do, don't forget to hit follow or subscribe, and please don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure you check out one of the podcasts that are part of my weekly listening routines. They add some sugar, they add some spice, talking about baking and murders in the Sugar Coated Murders podcast. That link to that show will be in the description of this episode, but also they have released a new book called Deadly Round, and this is a book not to miss, especially if you've read their previous book, Click, Click, Click. That book is available on Amazon right now. Make sure you pick it up. The link to that will, again, be in the description of this episode. But let's hear from Karen and Ann over the Sugar Coated Murders podcast now.
Hey y'all, this is Karen Devaney from the Sugar Coated Murder podcast. Join me and my sister Ann Varner for a new true crime experience. If you are obsessed with cooking shows and have a curious passion for murder cases, then find us on any of your favorite listening apps. Stay sweet.
A college professor finds herself at a personal and professional crossroads when a star pupil levels an accusation against one of her colleagues and a dark secret from her own past threatens to come to light. Julia Roberts stars in After the Hunt.
So what do you think?
About what?
All of it. The student, the professor.
I think
Can't take it back once it's been set in motion.
She mentioned a favorite teacher of hers, a mentor. This person was less than supportive when she came forward.
You know I love to rub it in like lotion.
So are you going to tell me why this is not true?
everything about this feels like a cliche. She's exploiting this shallow cultural moment.
I used to think I could rely on myself, that I could trust my instincts about people, about myself. Now, I'm not so sure.
I support whatever you choose.
A reporter approached me.
Don't tell your story to someone who just wants to turn it into something they can sell.
That's your logic? I mean, that's just so...
She couldn't look away, look away.
You never talk about yourself, your personal life, your family.
What would people say?
Misconstruing my need for privacy as having something to hide would be a mistake.
Respectfully, Alma, I'm not sure that it is.
Have you ever disagreed with a patient over a sensitive issue?
When did offending someone become the preeminent cardinal sin?
Fallout is inevitable. It's your courage that's going to inspire other people in pain.
I'm trying to help you.
You don't know anything about me.
Whose fault is that?
You are not entitled to any information about me in my life. So what is right? What could make you happy?
Are you scared that we're going to think less of you if it isn't perfect?
Should I build a world for you that has all the edges rounded out?
I have a right to these spaces.
Had your chosen cell with niceties and trigger warnings.
I am a desperate man, absolutely desperate.
I almost feel bad for him.
You should be ready.
Ready for what?
Now, this is a movie I've been looking forward to after my Best Picture pick of 2024's The Challengers. Luca Guadagnino, After the Hunt, arrived with the kind of ambition of topics that should guarantee, especially in the back half of the year, a compelling story, a cinematic experience, a celebrated director after my Best Picture pick of 2024 Challengers. A top-of-mind subject, a cast led by Julia Roberts, Andrew Garfield, and ambition of topics that should guarantee a compelling experience. We have a trending director, a top-of-mind subject, and a cast led by Julia Roberts, Andrew Garfield, and Ayo Edebari. But despite everything pointing to the right direction, the film is a frustrating, muddled, and ultimately annoying, unsatisfying mess in the entry in the post-Me Too drama canon. A movie that mistakes ambition for depth and highlights of a topic for insight, with little to no payoff. This premise is forte and is meant to be the driver of the story and ends up being this movie's suicide and execution. Julia Roberts plays Alma, a Yale philosophy professor on the edge of tenure, when her star student Maggie, played by Ayo Edebari, who accuses Alma's colleague and close friend Hank, played by Andrew Garfield, of sexual assault. The film promises an exploration of truth, power, and institutional justice, set against the all-powerful or all-privileged Ivy League academia. Unfortunately, After the Hunt never delivers on this promise, instead getting lost in its own self-importance and narrative confusion, which at its core is level 1 of pure annoyance. The most frustrating flaw here is Nora Garrett's script. There's a level of laziness and self-reflection that she banks on the mere topic to drive this movie, which is both over-intellectualized and dramatically assumed. Our character's speech is overwritten. This is a movie that tries to sound smart and paint our Ivy League teachers as smart, But then as the movie goes on, they are the dumbest people on the planet, lacking any sort of common sense. The dialogue is so determined to be about something that it forgets to be about anyone in particular. At one point, I just visualized a wacky waving inflatable arm man, only with a frown. This poor script takes our characters Alma, Maggie, and Hank and reduces them as mere props for current issues rather than fully actual people. This script attempts to cover generational divides based on the nightmarish topics that we have seen from the media, the news, online, cancel culture, and the use of academic politics to prove a point that our filmmakers don't even know what they're trying to prove, which becomes a completely lazy mess. This is a film that at its prime of cancel culture, but the filmmaking is still absolutely annoying here. Guadagnino's direction, usually so much on point in vision, feels lost in the themes and the screenplay is trying to convey. The writing here seems to take a back and forth opinion, and rightfully so when it comes to how cancel culture beams a message of guilty until proven innocent. But the screenplay never gives us anything to work with as a viewer to really prove a point or give us a clear direction of consistency of theme. It avoids giving a clear opinion on which way it wants to go. It's playing both sides of the fence, as most people do when they talk about cancel culture, in fear of being canceled themselves. And this is the birth of frustration. This is the point of art, is to voice a message, a stance, or a theme, to put your stamp on a vision of an opinion. But between the writing of Garrett and the sadly disappointing direction of Guadagnino, nothing here really works. Now, Julia Roberts gives a performance that's commendable, taking her Pretty Woman or Notting Hill persona for a character that has to portray a hot topic. And maybe that's why she picked this role, is to make her relevant again. I mean, she hasn't picked a good script since 2007's performance and box office performance of Charlie Wilson's War back in 2007. But 2017's Wonder was a feel-good movie, but that's the problem. If we take 2017's Wonder, 2022's comedy Ticket to Paradise, 2018's Ben is Back, we can see Roberts throw darts at the board in projects and genres that doesn't make her stand out, as we saw from the 90s. And by adding a hot topic script in the back half of the year, this probably was too tempting for Roberts to pass up. At the same time, it's hard for me to believe that on paper, this was a good script if you look past the topic at hand. This is a movie that you read the synopsis and you say, this is something that I can do that's going to lead me to my next Oscar. This is a topic that people are going to talk about. People are going to talk about it, but not in the way you think. I mean, we have a heavy topic here like sexual assault, and it's completely mishandled. It feels like a fever dream to focus more on the ones in control versus the victim. And the ones in control we get very, very little from to understand their reasoning, other than them inserting intellectual talk. Come the fuck on. When faced with an accusation of sexual assault, you're not going to feel relaxed and talk and quote authors. This feels fake, it feels wasted, and almost an insult to the victims. I can see that our writer Garrett is trying to play both sides of the fence, but she leans towards a focus on the powerful and the manipulative, but it all gets muddled in messaging of intent of each character that is more confusing by the time the credits roll. But out of all this mess, all of the complaints, my biggest complaint and most disappointing complaint, especially after the challengers, is the music. And I even complimented these composers of this film for the more recently reviewed film Tron Ares. But here, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross composed the most absolutely obnoxious, annoying circus act score to date, where it reminded me of the skit in Family Guy where a character has to have a theme song.
I got a job following fat people around with a tuba.
Stop it! Cut it out! I have a glandular problem.
And of course we can't have that kind of music follow Julia Roberts around, so we merely just get this. And I just created that. Give me a fucking Oscar. That took like 15 seconds. TikTok sounds and piano keys played. What in the actual fuck? The music here is beyond obnoxious whenever it played in the background, and it's utterly distracting. This isn't the score this movie needed. This is music that was overcomplicated to drive an emotional reaction that doesn't match the tone of the movie at all. I am baffled at the music in this film that took Reznor and Ross out of their element, where I can visualize them saying, I don't fucking know. Just hit piano keys. After the Hunt could have been a vital, challenging film to challenge and question cancel culture, but instead, it banks on the topic without challenge, without depth, or adding depth to our characters to understand or challenge the topics it presents. There are so many movies that grapples with these topics of sexual abuse, Me Too, and power and truth. You would be better off with better movies such as Doubt or Promising Young Women, and these films do it better, much better. This will be a film that will be on Julia Roberts' career as her worst film to date. I'm giving After the Hunt 1.5 stars. The story of Infamous, Lorenz Hart struggles with alcoholism and mental health as he tries to save face during the opening of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Oklahoma. Ethan Hawke, in a lot of makeup, takes on Hart in Blue Moon.
I need a drink.
Big smile.
We write together for a quarter of a century, and the first show he writes with someone else is gonna be the biggest hit he ever had. Am I bitter, Larry? Yes.
For over 20 years, Hart and his partner Richard Rodgers created a string of hits.
I want 10 copies of that.
Write me a check.
Such as My Funny Valentine, The Lady is a Tramp, and Blue Moon.
Your work is brilliant. That's not the problem. No, I'm not drinking with you, Larry. They should put my picture on that bottle. The whiskey that made Lorenz Hart unemployable. I think we should be dreaming about new Rodgers and Hart, something people haven't seen before, something big. We have to work like professionals, Larry. It's a business. That's all. Elizabeth, I adore this girl.
You're going to introduce me to Richard Rodgers, right?
She's a girl. See, I always thought that your interests went more towards...
My interests? So now you are going to analyze me? Thank you, Dr. Bacardi.
What do you think she sees in him? I think she recognizes she's being adored by one of the great appreciators of beauty.
There's no way around that one, is there? When the girl loves the guy with all of her heart and he just doesn't return her feeling? Do you have any idea what that feels like?
Nobody ever loved me that much. It's really striking. Are you and she... Oh, no. I mean... I'm in love with her, but everybody's in love with her.
Blue moon, you saw me standing alone.
Wise guy.
Without a dream in my heart, without a love of my own.
From the opening scene, Blue Moon makes it clear that it's just not another entry in the long list of biopics, retellings. It assumes and becomes a love letter to Broadway fanatics and fans of the history of Broadway. But more importantly, the inspiration of dialogue and lyrics that come from writing a book for Broadway, that honestly many will pay little attention to. Writers from the past and even the present have put blood, sweat, and tears into their work writing. Well, some of them, except for the writers of After the Hunt. Well, anyway, Blue Moon paints a picture of a Broadway legend that not only put his blood, sweat, and tears into his work, but also has to balance it with the avoidance of coming to terms with his addiction by attempting to put humor, love, and the main points of what's missing in his life that he desperately tries to supplement and insert into his work, but also has to balance it with the avoidance of coming to terms with his addiction by attempting to put humor, love points, and the main points of what's missing in his life that he desperately tries to supplement and insert it into his work to save himself from addiction. But in the meanwhile, he loses those so close to him that made him originally successful. Blue Moon stars Ethan Hawke as an extraordinary portrayal of Lorenz Hart, who before Rogers partners with Hammerstein was a successful duo in Broadway before Hart's addiction and mental decline separated the two in a professional manner, which those that aren't familiar with the story may be lost in the mix, but the screenplay by Robert Kaplow gives us just enough to assume and even entice us to research after the credits roll. What's so special about Kaplow's screenplay is that it just doesn't assume most of the runtime that we know the story. It kind of teeters in between fans and non-fans, or those that just don't know. It gives the audience hints at why this movie is relevant and made for fans of musical history, and gives us encouragement to research this man outside of the movie. And this is where my opinion will be biased, because I'm a huge fan of musicals Broadway and I had a decent knowledge of its past. But the one thing that will be with little debate, even with little knowledge, is that Ethan Hawke's performance dominates the screen in complete control. We can visually see him command attention, engagement from his co-stars. And even though not a perfect movie, this is a performance that is deserved to be acknowledged during awards time. There is not a moment here that our director Richard Linklater doesn't realize this and homes in on Hawke to take command of the cinematic boat. Over the recent years, Hawke came out of nowhere. Hawke has proven himself to be one of the most versatile actors, and he has breathed new life into his career. We saw it in The Black Phone, and even taken up a notch in the more recent sequel. Hawke's every gesture, every glance is embodied with meaning. He anchors this film emotionally and humorously at times, making the journey towards redemption not only believable, but utterly compelling. Even during his journey seeking love, seeking acceptance, seeking redemption, we feel every emotion from Hawke, even in the latex makeup that's caked on his face. Director Richard Linklater crafts a world that is both lush, intimate, and truly funny. We bounce from bar to theater quite often that makes us, in the words of the film, feel like life's a play. The cinematography by Shane F. Kelly from 2006's Scanner Darkly and 2014's Boyhood is simply stunning. We feel like we are in a play when we're telling this biopic. Rain-soaked streets, dimly lit jazz clubs, and a theater light intimately in the background showcasing our cast are done with a personal touch of theater to represent the screen. Every scene here, it seems like it's been strategically placed. Every scene is carefully composed to draw the viewer into Hart's internal world, mirroring his shifting moods and gradually dawning hope. We can feel his emotion in the setting. And this is strategic because we know the outcome of Lorenz come from the very first scene. The filmmakers know this and they give us some hope of happiness, and they strategically place these scenes to actually give us some entertainment value or curiosity, to have our eyes wander the screen, to really understand what this character's journey is meaning. And when we're faced with somebody with addiction, their world is dark, their world is sporadic, and our scenes reflect the mood. Even though Lorenz is showing happiness, we get dim lights in the back, knowing his true emotion at this time, how he's viewing the setting, how he's viewing the world. And that's what makes a engaging film, even though strategically having the outcome in the beginning is contradictory to what we see in normal biopics, but we know what's going to happen. And to keep the viewer's engagement, we go through an emotional journey, not just a life's journey. That's what makes this and separates this from biopics past. Our writer, Robert Kaplow, doesn't just tell the story by the book, but tells us who Hart was, driven by the characters around him, especially a barkeep Eddie, played by Everybody Loves Raymond co-star Bobby Cannavale, along with a little Easter egg of historic nature where we see E.B. White, played by Patrick Kennedy, author of Stuart Little, in which our screenwriter hints at a little stolen idea for our children's book from Hart about a little white mouse. We have nods to historic writers of dialogue that Hart inspired, that many might not catch, but it's just enough to make this movie about Lorenz Hart that many won't know the name. All these little Easter eggs, all these little nods, all this dialogue is just enough to make this movie about Lorenz Hart that many won't know the name. This movie makes this name relevant. It makes it interesting. Our writer Kaplow's dialogues are casual yet impactful, allowing silence speak as loudly as a spoken word when Hart isn't speaking. Their narrative structure is chaotic and casual at the same time. which generally unravels Hart's past through a series of dialogue-infused stories. He tells stories to our barkeep, he tries to pitch ideas to other Broadway producers. All this feels organic and never forced. This film is deliberate in its pacing, but never drags. Instead, it invites the audience to pause and reflect, wondering if we should be on Hart's side or everybody else's. And the undertone of addiction and mental decline, this is something that is relatable. We relate to the reactions of the co-stars. We relate to the situational pieces that the movie inserts. And we also emotionally relate to Hart. It's a clever strategy of writing that some might not get. We see a slow crescendo to take us deeper into Hart's mindset and thought process during the time of decline. Even when at mental decline that's infested with addiction, we can kind of see where Hart's creativity wants to go. We can see him give a lot of messy thoughts up front and center of his next project that he wants to do. And all of it's driven by emotion and regret. And again, I'll go back. Even though we know what the outcome's going to be from the very first scene, we don't know how his final moments are going to be. Did he find redemption? Did he actually get creativity, satisfaction that he got in his last moments? Though many will know Hart as a writer to one of my favorite songs of all time, Blue Moon, and we even get a little story from Hart on how we got Blue Moon. It does bring a question up front and center that maybe we needed more depth to this character, a little bit more background, not just a dialogue of stories that he tells. We needed something more in our face, more of the traditional biopic, because the film does spike intrigue, but it feels more deserving of a man's career of what he's done versus focusing on his decline. But I get what our filmmakers are trying to do. They're trying to create something more fresh. They're trying to create something that doesn't follow the same formula. It almost feels like a jazz club where we're hearing old stories from performers past, and it is refreshing to a point. But me being selfish and knowing a little bit about Hart's background, where I wanted something a little bit more. I wanted something to follow that same formula. What his journey is going to be, the controversy between Rogers and Hart. But the film doesn't get tempted to go down that route. Yes, we do get conversations between Rogers and Hart, and that's where the audience has to fill in the gaps, where we don't assume that we know, so we have to, based on dialogue, really critically think of where this relationship went south. Another aspect with all the heavy topics it covers, this is where I will applaud Blue Moon. It does cover addiction, it does cover the loss of a career, it does cover the success of a departed partner. It refuses to sit in despair. Instead, it suggests that redemption is always possible if you're vulnerable. In words, even in the darkest moments. Hart's journey is not an easy one, and the film does not offer easy answers or happy endings, even with the most creative, musical, innovative mind. Hart is never a happy one, but rather an output of internal feelings. That's what Blue Moon brings to the table. Blue Moon focuses on an overwhelming and uncertain life of creativity and success. Art in this aspect will never be uncertain, but overwhelming, yes, because emotions are involved. Blue Moon delivers a message of hope that feels both timely and timeless. The one thing we can all agree on when it comes to art, it always changes, but it's how it's portrayed to the audience based on our emotions. Emotions will always be all over the place. That's something with humans that we will always share. We'll always feel sad, we'll always feel bad, we'll always go through hardships, we'll always have somebody in our life that's struggling with addiction, struggling with mental decline. How we output that is something that's never constant as we grow as a society. We don't get the same art that we got 50, 60 years ago, but here it is handled at an emotional level with the settings and the background and the lighting and the filmmaking process doing the work for us. Blue Moon is more than just a beautiful film. It's an experience that invites you to think, feel, and go along with the dream of expressing the process and display of emotion. It's one of those rare movies that rewards multiple viewings, revealing new layers with each revisit. The blend of Ethan Hawke's absolute controlled and brilliant performance and supporting cast firing on all cylinders makes for a film that lingers in the mind and heart. Blue Moon is a welcome reminder of the power of intimate storytelling. It's a film that trusts its audience, respects their intelligence, and offers a deeply human story that resonates long after you leave the theater, whether you're a Broadway fan or not. Blue Moon will have you Googling after you're done. I'm giving Blue Moon 3.5 stars. And that's a cut on this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I want to thank you for listening and thank you for your support. You can also show support by following me on Instagram, Blue Sky, X, Thread, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire Show. And please don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you haven't yet checked out the Cult-Worthy Cinema Podcast and the Movie Wire's crossover show, Back to the Balcony, make sure you do. Again, the link of that show will be in the description of this episode. Until next week, do me a favor. Make sure you stay for after the credits to show the respect to those that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film and support your local movie theaters.
Thank you for bringing me to the movies.
Let the credits roll. We say farewell. Join us next time. We'll have more tales to tell.